Hello and welcome back to episode 2 in the second series of the Wholehearted Living podcast with your host Debs Thorpe. And if you have ever felt like you can't stop, that rest is unsafe, like slowing down means that you're going to lose everything and it's all going to fall apart, then this episode is for you. Let's dive in. So today we are going to break up with hustle culture. This sense that we have to, in order to be ambitious and driven and have big dreams and aspirations, that we have got to hustle for it. Okay. And by hustle, I mean this forced, always doing, always on the go. You know, you the first person at work in the morning, you're the last one to leave, you're answering emails at whatever time of the day, you're always on. Okay, this sense, and it's become, certainly with so many clients that I work with, it's become almost like this expected way of working now, where there is just this expectation that you have to be this way, otherwise you're not going to make it and you're not going to succeed. Can we just call BS on that for today's episode? And I'm going to show you why and how. So if slowing down and if resting feels unsafe to you, if you feel like there is this constant urgency to do stuff and everything feels now, and you're never really stopping to celebrate each moment, you're like straight onto the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, these are all signs that this is a trauma-driven response. And by that, I mean it's tapping into your fight and flight nervous system that is all about now, seeing to the immediate threats. Your very doing is tied to your safety, and it is, you're living from your survival system, which is why when people in this place initially access any of the programs we've got in the Wholehearted Living Institute, especially for people who I work with personally, when we start talking about what living like this is doing to them, the fear of changing is so great because it's tied to their very survival. It's tied to the coarse human needs we have for safety, for food and warmth and shelter. Okay. And so the thought of deconstructing this response and this hustle means that in their own brain, from how they're operating at the moment, that's going to directly impact their ability to survive in this world. And that's huge. We're talking about core human needs here. So in this episode, I really want to guide you into why that's not the case and why you get to build from a different place, even within the confines of your environment right now. So, constant doing actually keeps you smaller than who you are. I'm just going to repeat that. Constant doing from that survival response, that everything's immediate, everything's urgent, everything needs doing now, on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. That mode is keeping you smaller than who you truly are. And it's keeping you in a life smaller than what you are truly capable of. Hustle, we've defined that constant need, that fear-driven state, narrows creativity. It keeps you in this really limited thinking place. Now, it keeps you going in the direction that you're in. So it makes you a really, really good worker, a really good career person, right? A really good, dedicated manager, leader for, like businesses and companies and like systems, okay, that are relying on people doing so much that they don't have the space or the capacity to think about different possibilities, opportunities, creative ways of working, things that could be done differently, okay? It ultimately leads to burnout. And I've worked with people who are at various different stages of this burnout. Some are in that stage where the disconnect between what, like, your true heart, the trueness of who you are, your very soul is wanting, and what you're currently doing, the more that gap grows, the more discomfort and suffering you are living in, you're experiencing. And that can happen in various different ways. It generally begins with a sense of obligation and resentment, feeling disconnected from yourself and your life, starting to resent the very people around you, the very systems around you that are kind of keeping you stuck and trapped, resenting that you feel like there's nowhere for you to go, and it just keeps on going down that until it's really starting to manifest physically, until the point where it's like at some point your body, your mind, all of it will just go no more when you've reached kind of the very edge of burnout. So people are in different stages of this, but it's all symptomatic of the same thing, where there is a misalignment between your actions and the survival system that you're using to live from, and what you're actually really meant to do and be when you're here as this human being on this planet right now. We know beyond any doubt that as human beings, as mammals, we are meant to live the majority of our lives in the resting state. And by that, we're not talking about rest as doing nothing, which can get very confused. We're talking about that rested state where your body is in the system where it can repair and restore, and it's got a lot of energy to utilize for creativity and imagination and fun and like all of these like amazing things, right? That's where our body is meant to reside 98% of the time. Our survival system should only ever be switched on when we're in an actual survival situation. It's an incredible system. It's very intelligent, but it's only designed to be used in those situations. Our body is not designed to live from this survival fear-based state almost all the time. We will have experience of this, right? We will know people who are like, you can only go for so long before some illness, something hits. There's some mental health issue. We can't be in this forever. But we also have to understand that, unfortunately, and I struggle with this personally, we don't live in a world where every single company and business cares that that's the cost. And I would actually go so far as to say, I've worked with quite a lot of clients in the corporate world, And this is just my personal opinion, there are definitely companies and managers that are going after and recruiting people and taking people on who like fall into this category, because they know that they can work them, get huge amounts of output from them. It might not be forever, but because eventually they're going to burn out, but they'll be able to like literally bleed them dry for that period of time. So they're going to get bang for their buck, right? And that's a horrible place to be. I genuinely wish that all businesses and companies were truly regenerative and really cared. But I'm just speaking from my experience that we have to acknowledge that this is not just a personal issue. This is a global systemic one as well. So I say that if you're hearing yourself in any of what I'm talking about, I don't want you to go into self-criticism and self-judgment and self-shaming. Like, we have systems and structures that are designed to keep people in this place because they know that they are going to get huge amounts from them. Then you add in maybe some people pleasing, or you add in some trauma or something within their background, they might be able to keep going for years before they break. So let's not give ourselves any judgment and criticism for this, but just if we see ourselves in any of these patterns, just allow the awareness to be enough right now. Okay. This is one thing that I want to bring in here, and this is from my own personal journey, and I'll use this because I never want to I never share any client stories or any of their journey. The work that I do is so sacred and so confidential with people that I never use them as an example. So I'm going to pull from my story here of being the straight A student at school right up until just before I took my GCSE, so just before I took my final exams at 16. And, I thrived on being the good girl. I always went above and beyond. I, would just, you name it, I was like the person that would always do the most work, put the most effort in. And I carried that on to an extent through my work. So I believed that I come from a working class background, right? So I believed that if you just put in the hard work, then you'd be rewarded. It's this karmic thing, of you work hard for everything that you get, and you're going to be well rewarded for it. And so that is how I lived the majority of my life. And, we can't say that it doesn't work at all, because of course on some level it does work, right? I could live and sustain myself, and I did well in jobs, and it's not that this way of living has like zero payoff for the person in it. Okay, we need to be real with that, but it also comes at a cost. And so when this translated into me setting up my first business when I was 24, honestly, like, I gave it everything. And I was surrounded by the rhetoric that, owning your own business is really, really hard. You're not going to make any profit for like the first few years. It's going to take like everything that you've got. And so I lived my business in that way. And again, it's not to say that it didn't provide me with anything. It provided our family with a home and income and, eventually holidays and all of these things. But it came at the cost of my burnout ultimately, because I was operating and I was stuck in this survival fear-based mode. And I honestly wore that hardest worker in the room badge with pride. Like, if there ever could have been like an award for, you are the hardest worker, you are the most committed, you always go above and like, I mean, honestly, I would have gladly shown them all off. That was my identity. That's who I was. I was that person. Okay. And so I never believed that I would be able to exist as a person without that identity. I didn't know who I was without that, let's be honest. And this is so true of so many clients I meet, that actually they just don't know who they are without this. And so what I'm bringing you into with the Wholehearted Living Institute, and what I am inviting you to do throughout this podcast series, is to begin exploring your identity beyond that. And we're going to dissect and disconnect hustle and always being on and always being productive and do. We're going to disconnect that from ambition. Because let's redefine that right here and now. Let's define ambition as a desire that's aligned with your values, with your dreams. Like, you can still be super ambitious and driven and be heart-centered and live in a way that's restorative and regenerative to not only you, but the very world that we live in. Versus hustle, which is fear-driven compulsion. Can you hear and feel the difference in that? Let's begin to move away from hustle, which is fear-driven compulsion, and towards ambition, which is desire fueled by your values. Let's invite you into a little practice now. Once again, just like we did in episode 1 of this series, if you can, close your eyes. If you can't, don't worry. Place a hand on your chest, a hand on your stomach. Take a nice deep breath in and a deep breath out. And a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And either say these words out loud to yourself or say them within your own mind. It is safe for me to slow down. Just let those words land in your body. It is safe for me to slow down. Again, take a deep breath in. And as you breathe out, repeat, it is safe for me to slow down. Okay, open your eyes if you've closed them, come back into this space. Just observe what's come up for you. Does it feel icky again? Is it like, oh no? It might be possible for other people, but no, it's not possible for me. Did it feel like, yeah, that would feel really, really good, but I don't know how? Or did it feel like that homecoming, that like, yes. Space to breathe would be nice. Again, this is like signals of where we are at on our journey. And if you haven't listened to episode 1 yet, I really encourage you to do that, because what we're talking about here is that pattern, is the pattern of hustle and the link that we've made with our survival and our success and everything. We've tied all of that to that pattern, but it's not the fullness, it's not the truth of who we are. And so we get to build a different pattern from a different place. So what does that actually mean in reality? It means that we are building from a place of inherent wholeness, from a place of regeneration. Okay. And that means that you will be able to keep working towards your vision, allowing that to happen in its fullness, in its most expansive state, unleashing lots of creativity and purpose and fulfillment and joy and productivity, but doing it from a place that's aligned with who you are and is regenerative, which means you will be able to keep going through that journey rather than there being an end date of burnout. And then the burnout forces a change. Okay, on some level, it will force a stop. Okay, I promise you, choosing to build a different system before it gets to that point is a lot easier. And it's going to make the biggest difference. Because once again, you're going to be choosing this from a place of wholeness, not lived your life in the fear survival state, ultimately burned out, and now like there's no choice but to change and do something differently. So some of those regenerative rhythms that you can begin to put into your life now, right now, because we actually don't have to wait until we change jobs, change careers, sell everything, get rid of the house, move away, go and become a nomad. We don't need to wait for any of that. Okay, we get to make those changes and build from that wholeness, from that regenerative place right here, right now. So to begin that, we begin by putting in some aligned boundaries. We begin to choose, I'm available between this time and this time. My phone is one of the first things I did. And, you know, for anyone who runs their own business, and I had staff at the time, and we were serving thousands of clients, and, you know, all of the stuff that goes with that, I felt I always had to be on. My phone always had to be on, just in case I was going to get the phone call or somebody needed me. The very first thing I did on this journey was my phone went into do not disturb mode at 9 o'clock at night. I'm not a night person. I'm a morning person, and receiving a message or something from staff or client or something after that time at night would throw me into such a state of panic and fear that I then wouldn't sleep, and that would be then having a knock-on effect the next day. And in all honesty, what was I going to be doing for like to help anybody at like 2-3 in the morning when my brain's still going? Like, and of course my nervous system that's locked in that fear state and survival is going, of course you've got to like deal with this straight away, like the world's going to end if you don't deal with it right now, like what are they going to, all the stuff. Okay, but I knew I had to start making changes, and that was the first change I made, was that every night my phone went into do not disturb mode at 9 o'clock at night. I didn't check it. I used that time to then begin the process of calming my nervous system down. So I would read a book, I would do some yoga, I would do anything that just grounded me into, it's okay, I'm safe, I can take this time, nothing's going to happen, like, let's... And you know what? The world didn't end. I slept better. And whatever it was, I could deal with it in the morning when I got up, when I felt much fresher, much more focused, much able to deal with it. Okay, so that's one example of really one small aligned boundary that I took. And, you know, someone said this to me at the time, and I never really quite understood it until I put it into practice, that people meet you where your boundaries are. So we think For example, I would get to this place of I was doing clients at all times of the day. You know, if all they could do was like 8 o'clock on a Friday night, I'd be working at 8 o'clock on a Friday night, and I'd be back in working at 8 o'clock Saturday morning, and you name it, like I was doing it. And I had this story that if I was to say, no, I can't do that time, these are the only times I'm available, I'd lose clients. And of course, we were building a business and we needed the money and, you know, all the stuff that goes with that. So what happens is that people will go to your boundary edge. So they will generally keep asking, keep demanding, keep pushing things on you to where your boundary ultimately is. So if that's not like non-existent, it's just going to keep coming. And so gradually, you can put the boundary edge in place. So, for example, I've never liked working Saturdays. I've never minded working a Sunday. So my initial boundary was, I'm not going to work beyond 8 o'clock in the evening with clients. I'm not going to work on a Saturday, but I don't mind doing like 3 hours on a Sunday. And once in my mind, I'd made the timetable for myself that felt good to me, that worked in rhythms with myself, funnily enough, everyone else then worked within that. Okay. And if they didn't, then I had to trust that it was okay for that client to fall away, because there was going to be a multitude of others where this formula was going to work better because it was more sustaining for me, and therefore it was better for everybody. Okay, so there's a couple of real examples of small boundaries that we can put into place that begin shifting where we are. It's interesting how much we unconsciously accept as fact, and that this is the way it just has to be, and we never really question it. And so we begin this process by going, actually, does it have to be like that? Really? There's no other option. None at all. Like, there's not even a hint of, it's interesting what can start to open up from this. Scheduling rest and play. I lost, during the really intense period in the build up to my burnout, I described it as being as though someone had locked joy, you know, that kind of like just the joy of being alive. Someone had locked that emotion away in a room inside of me, and I didn't have the key. So I could put the mask on, I could go and do things that should give me joy and put a smile on and, you know, try and make it like that was the case. But deep down, I wasn't fully experiencing it. That fun, that silliness, that play, like it was all locked away in a door, in a room that I just didn't have access to. And so one of the really powerful ways that we can come back to unlocking like all of this within ourselves is to literally create some space for this to happen. Everything within you is going to tell you don't have time. I'm going to tell you don't have time not to. And to go back to the things that lit you up as a kid. I don't like schedule in as though it's a meeting, as though your life depends on it. Something that you can do that's literally just for fun. That is probably one of the single most powerful things you can do to unleash your creativity and energy and get your body out of survival mode and into the rest and digest replenishing mode that it should be in. Really, really important. Listen to your body signals. Okay, listen to those subtle signs. I totally and utterly disconnected from my body. Most people who are heading towards burnout are totally disconnected from their body, because you've got to freaking be. To keep up with the demands that that pattern is asking of you, you can't freaking feel, because you wouldn't get through a day. You know, the amount of clients I have seen where, you know, they are dealing with huge amounts of like muscular pain, tension, stomach issues, headaches, just the physical stuff that they have to medicate, squash down, ignore, deny just to get through the day. It's colossal. So there's going to be signs in your body that's telling you this is not okay. You don't listen to those signs, you're heading for one direction. We know where that is right now. Okay, that's what we've been exploring. So begin to listen to your body signals, and even if you literally physically can't take action on them in that moment, at least begin listening to them. At least begin letting your body know that you hear it, and that you are going to start feeding it more nourishing foods, or you're going to start at least giving it some space by doing 60 seconds of stretches when you get up in the morning and have a wash. Okay. What I want you to hear through this episode is that the ultimate end of this hustle survival response is burnout, and that will be drastic. That will be a physical, mental, emotional emergency stop on your body. Guaranteed that's where it's going. You can blow up your life right now and make huge sweeping changes if you want. What I'm saying to you through this is that that's not the journey. You still have to do this inner work. You still have to be the person that can set boundaries, honor themselves, schedule time for rest and play, for living in a regenerative rhythm that suits you. Like, you're still going to have to learn all of this. So what I'm inviting you to do is to begin to do that now, from where you are. It's going to feel freaking uncomfortable. That pattern is going to scream at you that all hell is going to break loose if you dare to deviate from it. Okay? No, it's just the pattern, and that you are so much bigger than that. You're so much greater than that. And the small steps that you take every day towards the wholeness of who you are and away from that pattern, the more that you will unlock. The more energy you'll unlock, the more freedom, clarity, like it will all start, like we were saying about the computer program in the last podcast episode. Okay, so there's my invitation for you today. What is the one action that you're going to take this week that begins to put your system into that more regenerative state, into that rest and relaxed place? What boundary can you set? What possibility can you open that you've not seen before? What playful thing can you introduce back into your life? Okay. There's my invitation for you today. As someone who has walked this journey, I have gone through the fire of burnout, I've come out the other side of it, and I've guided so many clients through this. I promise you that this journey works. Okay, and there's so much more on the other side of it for you. So much more than you can even comprehend right now. So if you need to borrow some of my trust and belief in you right now, please do that. I'm good with that. So if you haven't done so already, by the way, I really invite you to sign up to our mailing list, because I'm putting together a collection of resources that you can access to support your journey through each series of the podcast. So there's going to be some short guided audios and practices and little kind of reminder sheets for you, so that you've got all of that in one place to really support your journey, so that you can really get started. It's not enough just to know this stuff. Yeah, I've got loads and loads and loads of lived wisdom and learn knowledge to share with you, we don't want it to sit like that. We want it to be embodied. We want it to land and for it to actually make a difference in your life. So there's a whole support kind of bundle that I've put together to assist you and support you through each series of the podcast. So please do sign up for that and let me know what you think of it. And please let me know in the comments what your one action is. And I am here as your ultimate cheerleader, nourisher to support you in that action as well. Until next time, bye for now.